Hello, everyone. My name is Rustem. I'm a growth core at Nitro Labs, where we're building a modular Solana network extensions. And today's topic is basically about the scaling solutions. So, in particular, about network extensions as a new way of scaling your application on Solana without creating a new chain or spreading liquidity, basically achieving IBRL. Yep. By doing so, the agenda I would like to go through is mainly to stating the main problem, that Solana's state share has its own limitations, and that is why it's sometimes causing a problem for users to thinking about going off-chain or splitting liquidity by offering modular solutions. And that is why a couple of projects like us are developing a new solutions which focusing mainly on network extensions. And that is why it's kind of a new possibility. Instead of splitting liquidity and going to the rollup solution, you can just add one particular feature to your application, and your end user will still do not understand if it's been moved off chain. And basically that is why we built Termina and offering as a new solution to tackle that particular challenge. And probably everybody already saw the tweet. Basically it was during the ETH Denver, and it shows one particular aspect about the Solana developers, exactly about your typical Solana developer cares mainly about how to make application fast, how to make it very smooth, and how to make user experience very smooth. Yep, smooth and cheap. And basically trying to achieve IBRL. But what is IBRL? In simple terms, it's not about basically achieving performance, but it's also about adding new possibilities and features to your application without by achieving performance with a better user experience, lower latency, by decreasing latency, simply offloading some execution aspects to the off-chain environment, even though staying on-chain, and which allows you to make it very cheaper execution. So basically, in order to achieve IBRL, you need to have three main components. It's a cheaper cost, very smooth user experience, and composed liquidity. But sometimes, especially in the Solana ecosystem, when during the meme coin frenzy, shared state was been too offloaded, and that is why it led to congestion issues, not to congestion, but delayed in effect transaction lending. And that is why some people have started to think about offloading or moving to the off-chain environments. And there have been a couple of examples where, in case of Zeta markets, they start building their own bullet, their own rollup for DeFi applications. However, if you want to go through that approach of creating your own rollups, there are particular challenges that you have to tackle with, because it requires, first of all, to build your own infrastructure, to bridge liquidity, and the most worst in that case, you are degrading user experience that Solana is very famous for. And that is why we're thinking that leaving the Solana shared state is not the solution, simply for the reason that has been shared before. And if you don't want to fragment liquidity and use the composability within the whole applications on the Solana network, you can simply extend the chain. And that is why it's called network extensions. You're extending only one particular aspect of your application without degrading and fragmenting liquidity. And this was actually, the term itself, network extension, was created quite recently, half a year ago, by formerly head of strategy of the Solana Foundation. And now it's mainly about, and now he's, I think, working on his own startup called 00. But anyways, and that is why we built Termina. As I said, it's a toolkit of network extensions, simply for It's easily customizable, you can just plug and play one particular aspects. And so far we built 3 main products for particular use cases. For example, the SVM engine is mainly focused on DeFi applications. If you are building a DEX and want to reduce latency for your user by reducing from 400 milliseconds to 50 milliseconds, you can use SVM engine. Or if you are building a DEPIN network and want to create and want to streamline the pipeline of the reward distribution to your node contributors, you can integrate the data module, which helps you to do so by reducing the cost of off-chain data committed on-chain. And if you're building if you're building an infrastructure product and focusing and interesting to build it as a trust minimized environment, you could integrate zk SVM prover, which is able to prove any SVM arbitrary transactions. And let's start basically from the SVM engine. In a nutshell, it's basically a Solana runtime. It mimics Solana runtime, but in an off-chain environment. And as I said, an example that if you are a DeFi product, you could offload to the off-chain environment only the parts of your execution. So basically, a whole transaction would process through the SVM engine and settles back to Solana, and which makes the user experience very smooth. So the end user during the process will think that it's more as a centralized exchange, for example, because actions and happens literally simultaneously. And the second product about the zk SVM, as has been said, it allows you to prove any arbitrary SVM transactions and submit proofs on chain. So basically, if you're doing any computation of chain and do not want to run the whole logic back on Solana, you can just need to generate a proof that the transaction happened in a right manner and everything been done correctly instead of doing the whole process again. And this is very important when you are trying to build a trust minimized environment. Basically, one of our early design partner is A0 Labs. They are building a bridge powered by ZKPs between Solana and Arweave. And that is why they're using our zk-SVM prover to generate proofs over Solana transactions and to submit them to Arweave. And the third product is a data module, which is, has been said, allows you, in a nutshell, is basically a data ledger, which allows to store your off-chain data that have been generated by the node contributors to your DP network and handling them in off-chain. And without loading the full data on-chain, you're just submitting only commits that this data stored correctly in the off-chain environment, and that is why he's allowed to be either rewarded or slashed. And one of the early design partners for data ledger is Botanica. It's a startup that are trying to focus on building a decentralized data storage. And by doing so, they are currently sold their hardware devices up to 1,500 devices. And in order to prove that their information in the node contributors have been working appropriately, they are integrating our data module into their ecosystem, and which allows to store the proof that either their storage has enough capacity to store additional information, or the hardware itself or a node operator behaved in a good manner, and that is why he's deserved to be rewarded, either slashed. But in general, if to go back to the history of the building of Termina, initially the whole team was starting to building it as a roll-up stack, but during the process of development, we realized that in most cases, especially on Solana, teams do not require the full roll-up stack. It just requires to have one particular aspect of the off-chain computation that could be integrated into the application, whether it's going to be a DeFi application, DePIN application, or infra product. But some certain cases do require roll-up stacks, not all of them, and we also can support that by providing a single Termina's L2 roll-up stack on Solana, which integrates all three modules in the one stack and allowing you to build your own roll-up on Solana, but depends on your use case, of course. So just to quickly recap, Termina to put it simply, is basically a toolkit which allows you to integrate one aspect that requires to be scaled instead of overloading it with different infrastructure products. And you just need to pick only one or two aspects of it in order to just improve the user experience. The whole idea of the Termina is to make the development very easy for you and make the experience of using your application much smoother for your end user. And that's basically it. Again, once again, my name is Rustem, and we are here to help you to scale on Solana and achieve your IBRL. So if some of this is interesting to you, please feel to reach out to me. I would like to speak with everyone. And here's a form which sends you to become one of the beta testers of one of the modules. If you're building either a Depin product or DeFi product, I would like to discuss on how I can help you as well. Yep, that's